Okay, now we're talking distance control wedges. So I got a 50-yard shot set up. A little bit different. I like my guys from distance control wedges, which I consider 50, 75, 100, 125, and you got some high-speed players that even beyond that, but really 125 to 50. I want you to have two shots. I want you to have a high trajectory shot, and I want you to have a medium trajectory shot. If you have a stock shot, I'd rather be that medium trajectory. Obviously, if you have the skill set to make it your stock, but that's the shot I think is the most consistent, is that medium trajectory shot. The wind's not gonna touch as much, into the wind, cross winds. I think it's easy to launch it down your line. It's easy to end up controlling spin, direction, and distance. So that's the first one I wanna start with, is work on that medium trajectory 50-yard shot. Again, you're gonna apply the same thing to 100 and 75, 100, 125, just adding speed within this structure. So I have my setup station set up again, going right towards that cone. Let me double check. Yeah, that looks good. Get behind it, set up. Again, medium trajectory to start with. So I'm gonna have the ball position more or less in the middle. I'm gonna have the shaft pretty square. Again, I don't wanna add a lot of loft to it. I want the face pretty square. And I'm gonna sit here, again, just kind of get an idea spatially. What's the distance I need to move this handle? It's much bigger than those finesse wedge shots I was hitting earlier, but it's not a huge swing. Like this finesse or this distance control wedge, I shouldn't really feel like my body, my lower and upper body, really come up out of my posture, out of flexion too much. They are obviously, but they're not really conscious. It's not like I'm trying to come up to hit the shot. That's where I think players really start to struggle with this, is when they hit this shot, they start to come up going back or come up going through, and that starts to get the handle and the club head to really snap and move in a much bigger range of motion that we need for this shot. And that's where consistency starts to fall. So again, really start to match up your visual, medium trajectory, 50 yards. Okay, what's just enough handle path travel to consistently hit the shot down that line? Now I'm gonna get that feeling, what it feels like to create that same kind of structure. And I'll start trail hand only, hit these shots. I can hit this 50 yards pretty easily. As I hit it 35 to start with. Again, make my adjustment. So now the handle path needs to get a little bit higher this time in order for me to create a little more distance and speed. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was right on. So that would be my medium trajectory shot. Again, starting with the face pretty square, have a little shaft lean, return that shaft lean, launch it more medium trajectory. Now on a higher trajectory to 50 yards, I'm gonna move this ball position more forward in my setup station. My stance starts to open, my stance starts to widen. The handle gets a little bit lower, not crazy. I'm not trying to hit a flop shot here, but I'm gonna preset as much as I can to make my life easier to hit this high. I wanna do as much work as I can early in the swing and the setup. Get a feeling for that again. Okay, what's the handle path travel for this higher trajectory shot now? This is a much more difficult one, especially with one hand on, just because creating the speed that I need and to hit it high at the same time requires a little more work. But again, this isn't how I'm gonna hit it on the golf course. This is to develop the structure I need, that now when I start reattaching the lead hand and doing the same thing, again, it's more of an assisted role. I want this trail hand to really assist the lead hand to assist the trail hand's work. We need this lead hand to be a lot softer when you come back. I think players so hard been working on grips, getting the arm to soften up, and I think we can really make the lead hand more passive, just having a different grip. So after you do your trail hand work, I'm always attaching lead hand first, just the loop, top two fingers, and then I'll attach the bottom three fingers, take the top two off, and this is how I hit a lot of my shots. Just like this, top two fingers off, just leave these bottom three fingers. And again, that allows me to feel like I can control the weight of the club with my left arm, but reduces the ability for the left hand to kind of twist the club. So now it's still trail hand dominant, but the lead is supporting some of the weight of the club. I'll match that back up. Again, come back to my impact station, setup station, get a feeling for the path that I'm looking for, how to launch it down that line, and then now, with this lead hand attached back, this gets a lot easier hitting these higher shots just because I can scissor it easier, really control the distance and direction. So for the higher shot, again, that's where we're gonna need the lead hand. We talked about that with the finesse shots. These lower shots, we can actually hit these pretty effectively with just one hand. We don't necessarily need to, but again, build that structure. This is where it all starts. The genius is in the trail hand. Once your trail hand understands how to move this handle in space where you can catch the ball solid, hitting these shots and finding the direction and controlling trajectory gets a lot more consistent, easier to actually manage. But we got to build the structure with the trail hand first. And you've got to be able to understand how you can move this handle to get the head to make the cleanest contact. This handle starts to move back a lot, the club head stays back, you get it too shallow. It's just too hard to make clean contact there. So this little setup station is really gonna help you figure out a visual on how I need to move this handle in space to get this head to make cleaner contact with the golf ball, and then how my body needs to reorganize itself around that to allow it to happen. This is a really important area to work from. 50, 75, 100, 125. I want 2 shots, 2 trajectories. I want you to set up your setup station and then figure out what wedges for each one of those distances will give you that trajectory and that distance pretty comfortably.